Hello, and thank you for watching. I'm Jennifer Bowman with Olympia Piano, and this is number 2 in the 12 Days of Harmonization series, where I'm going to show you ways to harmonize a melody and show you different accompaniment patterns that you can use when you harmonize a melody. If you've already watched video number 1, Jolly Old St. Nicholas, and you feel comfortable with the techniques, then go ahead and just follow those same techniques and skip ahead to the accompaniment pattern, because the accompaniment pattern in this video will be slightly different than it was in the first video. This video will be most useful if you've watched my video called Harmonization 101, where we go over this Solfege Chord Finder and write down all of the chords that go with each solfege syllable, do, re, mi, and so forth. And I've also put a link in the description to Deck the Halls so you can print this out and follow along. Okay, we're gonna do 3 things in this video. The first thing is figure out which chords sound good with the melody. Secondly, I'm going to show you another accompaniment technique, slightly different than the first one we've already learned. And third, I'm going to show you how to transpose this into a different key using a lead sheet, which is just the words. So let's get started. And what we're going to do is we're going to write down the solfege syllables. This is in the key of C, so no sharps and flats. So in the key of C, this is so. So let's write the solfege for the whole piece. So as I am writing the solfege for this piece, I want to draw your attention to line 3, this third measure in line 3. We've got mi, and then we've got a sharp. So we actually use a different syllable for that, and it is called fi. So I'm just going to circle that because that gives us some information that we might need to use when we choose our chords. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to choose the harmonies that go with this melody. And in the previous video, Jolly Old St. Nicholas, there was 1 harmony per measure, except for near the end. This one, it might have 1, it might have 2 per measure. So we'll just have to listen as we go and make that determination. Before we start, I want to show you a couple things about the fingering. I've written the fingering in so you can play along. The first line, you should be able to just stay here in C position. And just at the end of the line, you have a little crossover. So crossover. Line 2 is the same. Line 3, you're going to scoot up 1 position, and you're going to have to do a cross under. So you're going to cross under your 3rd finger, which is on that sharp we already discussed. And then the last line, scoot up, and then crossover at the end. That's the fingering that seems to work the best for the key of C. So now get your Solfege Chord Finder out here, and what we're going to do is look at the solfege here on measure 1. So we've got so, and we want to check all the chords that sound good with so. So we're going to try it out with a 1 chord C major, 3 chord E minor, and a 5 chord G. So let's see which one of those sound good. Here's our 1 chord. And by the way, when you're trying to find out the harmonies that work, it's good to play a couple measures at a time. So first I'm going to try it out with the 1 chord. Actually, that 1 chord sounds great. So I'm going to put the 1 chord up here, and we'll try all of them. Got the 3 chord. Doesn't really sound that good, so I'm not going to even write it down. And the 5, the G chord. Doesn't sound good. So we can hear right away, 1 chord sounds good, and I was holding it down the whole time. So we're going to have the 1 chord for 2 measures. So the next measure, there's a lot of notes. Sometimes that's an indicator there might be more than 1 harmony when you have a lot of notes going on. So first let's try out the chords that go with re. And I'll play the whole measure so you can hear, do we need to change here on that mi or not? So on our Solfege Chord Finder here, here's the re category. We've got a 2 chord, D minor, 5 chord, or 7 chord. So I'm also going to play this in context, so I'm going to start at the beginning of the piece and try out all the chords for the re. So we have the 1 chord for the first 2 measures. Here's the 2 chord. It's okay. Okay, now let me try the 5 chord. The 5 works really well at the beginning of the measure, but we're gonna have to change here. So 5 sounds good. And the 7 chord is our other option, this B diminished. Here we go. I'm not gonna write the 7 down. I don't think it's very strong. So I do think with the re, the 5 is gonna be strong. So I'm gonna circle that. 2 worked okay. So now we've got to figure out, okay, well, what about me? We've got to switch the chords right there because it doesn't sound good with the 5. So we're going to look again here on our Solfege Chord Finder, me. We've got a 1 chord, C major. We've got a 3 chord, E minor, or a 6 chord, A minor. So I'm going to go in order once again. So I'll try the 1 first. 1 sounds great. Now let's try the E minor. It's okay, but the 1 is much stronger. Let's try the 6. It could work. That's okay. That could work. Could be the second choice. 1 is the strongest choice. So now let's listen to this last measure here and see. We've got do, so we have 3 choices for do. We've got a 1 chord, a 4 chord, or a 6 chord. We'll try them all out. And I'm going to just start on the 3rd measure. So we've got, here's 1. 1 works. Okay, here is 4, F chord. 4 does not work. Finally, a 6 chord, A minor. 6 doesn't really work either. So we're going to go with 1 there. By the way, I'm circling. I meant to circle these. When we try them all out, circle your favorites so you know those are the ones you're going with. So there's one other thing you could do. If you like, you could choose to switch chords on the T. Depends on how fast you're playing the piece and how fast you can switch chords in your left hand. So let's choose some options for that T. And I'll just start right on the measure. So our options for T are either going to be a 3 chord, E minor, 5 chord, G, or a 7 chord, B diminished. Start with the 3 chord. 3 chord does not work. Let's try the 5 chord. 5 chord works. You'd go back to the 1 chord on the do, by the way. And now let's try the 7 chord. That works okay, but the 5 is stronger. So you can either switch 1, 5, 1, or you can just hold the 1 and not play the 5 at all, and not play the 1 again. Line 2, exactly the same as line 1. Okay, line 3. I'm going to play the end of line 2 so we can choose the chords for the beginning of line 3. Re, so our choices are going to be D minor, G, or B diminished. D minor. That sounds fine. We've got the re and the fa of the D minor chord, so that works pretty well. Let's try the 5 chord. Also works really well. 5. Okay, and finally the 7 chord. It works okay. I think the 2 or the 5 is stronger. So we could do 2 chords that measure. We could start with the 2, or we could just hold the 2, or just hold the 5. But I think I actually like starting with the 2 and then going to the 5. Fun thing about this is you can just decide what you like. So because they both work, let's use both of them. Okay, now let's see if we need 1 or 2 chords in this measure. When there's a lot of different syllables, you might need different chords. So our first word is me. So we're going to try the 1 chord first. 1 works pretty well. Okay, now let's try the 3 chord, E minor. Maybe, but the 1 is stronger, I think. Now let's try the 6, the A minor. I think 1 is definitely the strongest. So let's see if we need another chord in this, or if we can just stay on the 1 the whole time. So I'm going to look at which chords go with the so here. We've got 1, 3, or 5, and we'll just start right here, and we'll try the 1 chord first. Sounds good until the end, but it sounds okay. All right, now let's try the 3 chord. Sounds okay. Let's try the 5 chord. I think that sounds the best, so I'm going to go with that. All right, let's do the 3rd measure here. This F sharp is giving us some information. We might have 2 chords in this measure. Let's start by figuring out the chord for the mi. So we've got 3 choices again: C, E minor, and A minor. Let's start at the beginning of the line. 1 chord. 1 chord works well. Okay, and now let's try 3 chord. That works well too. Minor 3, E minor. Okay, and finally the 6 chord, which is A minor. A minor also works. I think all of those work. So let's try now. See this F sharp? That is telling us that we might use a chord outside of our key signature. And the type of chord I'm referring to is what's called a secondary dominant. So the secondary dominant, we're going to jump ahead a little bit, figure out what chord is going to be used for this measure, and then we'll work backwards to choose a chord for right here. You'll see what I mean in just a second. So I'm just going to start right here, and I'm going to just use the 1 chord for right now. We'll figure out what chord goes in this measure. Then we'll go back and plug a chord in for here. T is our word. So we've got E minor, G, or B diminished. So we'll start with E minor. I don't think that really works. Now let's try the 5 chord. 5 definitely works. And let's try the 7 chord. That works okay, but I'm going to just I'm going to circle the 5 chord. So sometimes in the music, to make a certain part of the piece a little bit stronger, what the composer will do is choose a harmony that's not in the key of C. They'll insert a substitute chord into the piece to make this part of the piece stronger. And that is what is going on right here. The information has been given to us. There's an F sharp here. So we're going to put that secondary dominant, which is going to be a D major chord, right there on that law. It's kind of. So now we're going to just choose which of these chords we want to come before that D major chord, because it's just going to be a personal choice. They all work really well. So I'm going to start at the beginning of that line and try them all out. Here's a 2, 5, 1, 5, 1, 5 of 5. Okay, so 1 is very standard. We would expect to hear 1 there. Let's try the 3 chord, the E minor. I like that. I like that E minor. It walks down. Okay, let's try the 6 chord now. A minor. I think I'm going to choose for that moment the 6. And I'm going to choose that for 2 reasons. I liked it, sounded good. But if we take a look at the keyboard, so the D is the 5 of G, so that D chord is the 5 of the G chord. Now if we look, what's the 5 chord of the D chord? It would technically be A major, in this case A minor, but we have that motion, A, D, G, and I think that's a strong motion. So let's go with the A minor for that moment, and then the last line is going to be similar. We've got this, and now we've got to just choose the very last line. So I'm going to start here. We'll try all the chords that go with La. La, we've got a 2 chord D minor, 4 chord F major, or a 6 chord A minor. Let's try the 2 chord first. I don't think that works. Let's try the 4 chord, F major. It definitely works for the first 4 notes, the 4 chord. And let's try the 6 chord, A minor. I think it's just the 4 chord there. So now let's choose a chord for here. We've got a lot of notes in this measure. It's going to be a 2 chord measure. So we'll start just right on that and choose the chord for the so. Okay, 1 chord definitely works. Let's try the 3 chord. 3 works, but I don't think it's that strong. 5 chord. I think the 1 chord's the best. Okay, and you can hear as I play that all out, we could actually just hold that 1 chord. Doesn't sound too bad. Here it works for the whole measure, but we're at the end. What about switching here on that re, having mi and do be with the 1 chord, and then let's choose an alternate chord for that re. Okay, first let's go with the 2 chord, D minor. Works okay. Doesn't seem very final to me. Let's try the 5 chord. That works very well. And then let's try the 7 chord. 7 works okay as well. However, the 5 is the best. So now we've got all of our chords written in, and I'm going to show you a slightly different accompaniment pattern that I did for Jolly Old St. Nicholas. What we're going to do is we're going to mix up the position of the chords. So we're not going to go through and have it be root position the whole time, a lot of hopping around. Instead, we're going to use what's called chord inversions, where we mix up the order of the notes. Instead of do, mi, so, we might use mi, so, do, or so, do, mi. Root, first inversion, or second inversion, to make this left hand a little more compact. And now I'll show you what I mean. So it's strong if you start in root position because you get the harmony in the bass. We've got a 1 chord to start, C chord. So now our next chord is a 5 chord. So the C chord and a G chord, they share a G. So what I'm going to do is, instead of hop around for that G chord, I'm going to keep the G in position, and I'm going to just move the other 2 notes of a chord. So we're going to play this version of the G chord, keeping the G on top. And that is a G first inversion chord. So right here, G stays where it is. This G is not moving. And then these bottom notes are moving down. And then we go back to the 1 chord. Again, keep the G where it is. These are going to be half notes, by the way. Stem goes on the left. And then same chord. Line 2, same thing. So we've ended with a root position, C chord. Our next chord is a 2 chord, so we're going from a C chord to a D minor chord. So in this case, we're going to just move up because there's no shared notes between do, mi, so, and re, fa, la. So we're going to keep root position chord right here. So what do the 2 and the 5 chord have in common? 2 chord, re, fa, la. 5 chord, so, ti, re. They share that re. So we're looking for a close position. We could do one of 2 things. We could keep the re where it is and do this inversion, or we could go down, but we're not going to hop all the way down. So let's try out both of those, see which one sounds better. So first one, I'm going to just move up, and then I'm going to go down, but not all the way down. I think they both work. I think it really depends on which inversion we use for this chord right here. So I'm going to try 2 different ways right here. So first I'm going to move up and then do the next closest C chord, and then I'm going to move down just a little bit and try the next closest C chord to that. Here's moving up. Or I think that one's stronger. So what we're going to do is we're going to keep that D, but instead of keeping it on the bottom, we'll do the middle. So it's still closer than hopping around. It's a lot of trial and error in this stuff. Then we'll keep the G on the top for that root position C chord. Then we're going to go to that same G chord. Okay. So then we chose the 6th chord for that harmony right now. When you have numbers that are next to each other, 5 to 6, you usually can just move the chord up in the same formation. So let's try that. Here's our 5 chord. Ooh, that sounds really cool. So here's our 5 chord. We're just moving up from a 5 to a 6. We're in the key of C, so we don't have to worry about any sharps and flats. So we're going to take all 3 of those notes, just move them up, so that'll turn into a line. And then those will be spaces there. The inverted chords look different because they're a little bit more stretched out. The root positions are stacked on top of each other. The inverted ones have the interval of a 6th on the outside. Okay, so now we've got A minor, and then this is our D major chord. Let's see what they share in common. So A minor, La, Do, Mi, and D major, Re, and then Fi, that's our altered syllable, La. So they both share the La, which is in this case A. So let's try just keeping that A where it is and moving up the bottoms. That sounds great, nice and strong. I'm going to add a sharp there. It's a note outside of the key. And then we are going from a D chord to a G chord. So let's see which notes they have in common between the D chord and the G chord. D chord, Re, Fi, La, D, F sharp A, G chord, So, T, Re, G, B, D. You can see they share the D. So because this is a big moment, what we've got to listen for now is if we keep this D in place, that's the shared note, does it sound strong right here? Or do we need this chord to be in root position to sound the strongest? Sometimes root position with the name or number of the chord, the 5 or the G on the bottom, makes it stronger at a big moment in the song. And that's where we're at. We've just had this extra chord, a lot of chord changes this line. So let's try both of those ways. First way, we're going to keep the D in the bass. The second way, we're going to put our thumb where finger 5 was and just pop down. Okay? Okay, that works. Let's try the hopping to root position. Thumb swap. I think you can hear that way is stronger to have that G in the bass. So when you're playing this, you just have to think. Your thumb is going to go where finger 5 just was. And then we'll go back like line 1. Okay, just a couple more chords here. Let's get our best transition between 1 and 4. All the other ones are going to be root position because we're near the end. Okay, 1 to 4. So what do 1 and 4 have in common? 1 is Do, Mi, So. 4 is Fa, La, Do. They share the Do, which in this case is C. Let's see if just switching those top 2 notes to the 4 chord works for this context. Definitely works. And it feels strong. It feels strong because we're keeping that C on the bottom and emphasizing this is our home key. So having a lot of C in the bass will do that at the end of the piece. And then here at the end, I did like the switching to the 5. So we'll do as we did in the top by keeping the G on the top. So we'll have G, G, we've got our block chords, and we've utilized chord inversions in this to keep the positions and the jumps at a minimum. There's one spot we will be jumping, but let's go through the whole thing now. So we've got 1 in root, 1 in root position. Now we're just going to move the bottom 2 notes and then back, same thing. Root position, bottom 2 scoot, both hands move up, and then hopping down, bottoms come up, and they go down. Now between the 5 and the 6, we're just going to move the whole position up. Now the bottoms are going to come up for that 5 of 5. And here's the place we're going to jump to make it strong. And we're going to jump back again to root. Final part of this video is adding the chord symbols to what's called a lead sheet. Lead sheet is just the words. So you have to know the melody when you're using a lead sheet. And we're going to fill in the chord symbols above the words, exactly where the chords would be switching. So if we have deck the halls with boughs of holly, we're going to put those chord symbols above those words. So deck is going to get a chord symbol. Even though it didn't change, I like to just put it here. But sometimes you won't see a chord symbol until the harmony changes. Okay, then we had fa, la, 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 la. Now, when we did the accompaniment pattern, we worked on using different inversions for the chords. So here, just want to give you a quick shorthand here. We have no extra little numbers. That means root position. If we have an extra little number 6 only, that means first inversion. And then if we had 2 extra little numbers, it means second inversion. Here's our one chord, no extra numbers. The intervals above the bass note are a 3rd and a 5th. So if I have a little number 6, what that means is first inversion. It means the intervals above the bass note are a 3rd and a 6. Notice we don't even write the 3rd in. We just write the 6. And then if I have the numbers 4 and 6, it's telling me second inversion. 4th above the bass, 6th above the bass. So that's the shorthand for the inversions. So I bring that all to your attention because when we're going on the fa la las, we had fa la 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 la. So you see how that is a 3rd above the bass, 6th above the bass. So I'm going to add that right here, telling us first inversion for those chords right next door to these chords. Okay, so then we have the same. 'Tis the season to be jolly. Same inversion. First inversion, fa la la la, root, root, first inversion, root. Then line 3, we moved up to root position, so that's going to be a don, we now. So on don, it's going to be 2, lowercase means that it's a minor chord, no extra numbers because it's root position, and then we moved to a 5 chord, and we moved to this one. Same one we've been using, so that's going to be 5, 6. Down we now are. Then 1, root position. Gay apparel. I'm going to put it right above the syllable where it occurs. And then, remember we moved right next door. We didn't change position, so this is going to move from a 5 chord to a minor 6. Same inversion. So minor 6. Move that little 6, showing us first inversion. Fa la la. La la la, root position, 3rd and 5th, 5, 5. No extra numbers because it's root. And then we moved down for the 5 chord to make that stronger. Then troll the ancient Yuletide carol. Then we move up to this 4 chord, and that's going to get the numbers 4 and 6 with it. Tells us second inversion. And then we're going to use that G chord we've been using. Okay, So now we have all the chords written in here, and what that gives us the ability to do now is play this in any key. So now this gives us the ability to play this, accompany this in any key. What I suggest for now is just play the chords. Let everyone sing along, you just play the chords. So now let's transpose to the key of A major. So now the one chord's going to be A, 2, B minor, 3, C sharp minor, 4 is D, 5 is E, 6 is F sharp minor, 7 is G sharp diminished, 1. And the other thing we have to worry about is the 5 of 5. So our 5 is E, and so the 5 of that secondary dominant, is going to be a B chord. So I'll do this in slow motion. We're going to start with 1 root position 1 chord. Now we're moving to first inversion E chord. That's our 5 first inversion. Top stays where it is. Back to 1 root, 1, 5, 1. Same thing. Root position 1, A major. To be jolly, first inversion, root. Now we're staying in root. The no extra numbers tells us we're in root. We're moving up 1 to B minor, but we've got to use black keys that are in the key of A. B minor, and then we're going to hop down to E, first inversion, 1 root, E, first inversion, and now we're moving up to 6, minor 6, which is F sharp minor. We've got to really think about our black keys here. And then that's going to go to the 6th chord. And then that's going to go to the 5 of 5, which is the B major. We're going to keep that F sharp on the top. And then we had talked before about hopping down to root for the 5 chord, which will be E. And then back up to 1 root. And then now our 4 chord, which is a D chord, we're going to keep that A in the bass. First inversion. Thank you very much for watching this tutorial number 2, 12 harmonizations. You can transfer this skill to any of the Christmas songs or any melodies really that you'd like to harmonize. What we did first is we chose the harmonies based on what sounded good with the melody and which chords go with the melody. Secondly, we created an accompaniment pattern. Instead of hopping around with the chords, we kept them in closer positions for the most part, depending on what the music demanded. Finally, we were able to transpose using Roman numerals to a different key, so you could play in any key depending on what key your instrument or singers might require. So as always, I hope you subscribe to my channel for more videos like this. There will be 12 Christmas carol videos with different accompaniments. I love to hear from you, so please write to me in the comments. Let me know what you're working on. Let me know if you have any questions, and let me know if there's any videos you would like to see. As always, thank you for watching.